Bontrager, sliding in for 2 p.m. with the trigger. And once again, we're back here to help you shine on camera, shine on stage to elevate you and your brand authority. And today we're going to get into some tips to better help you create your own industry based podcast or TV show. Now, you know, I'm all video. I love video, I love leveraging video, but some people just are not ready to jump on camera and go for it. So I understand that. The tips I'm going to apply here today are great for both sides of things. They're great for the audio podcast, and we know audio podcasting is growing and growing and growing in leaps and bounds. But did you know that the television side is just as powerful and it has benefits that you may not even realize when it comes to being an industry specific show? Now, first of all, trigger, what the heck does that mean? It's an industry specific show. So there are many authors that may have their own podcasting show to talk about books or talk about other authors. That's industry specific. Let's say you're an actor, you're going to talk to other actors, like inside the Actors Guild, things like that. Industry specific. What industry are you in? And have you thought about having an industry specific podcast or TV show to share your wisdom and knowledge, but also elevate you and your brand? Think about that. You can elevate your brand by sharing wisdom and knowledge with great, amazing guests. And of course, you're the show host. You're the go-to expert in your show. And that's one of the big tips here. Your show provides you the chance, credibility, visibility, and the chance to showcase you as a go-to expert in that industry field. Now, it's interesting because as big as podcasting is getting, there's other areas that are yet to be mined. I hear this a lot. People are asking, hey, Trigger, aren't there enough podcast shows? I mean, they're everywhere, right? Thousands upon thousands of podcast shows globally. I know there's got to be one in my industry being done. That may not be true, or there may not be many in your industry. So part of the thing is you want to get in there and find your little sliver. What's that niche, as they talk about? What's going to be your niche? Think about this first. I'm in this type of industry, but what niche, what specific area do I want to drill down to on my podcast or streaming TV show? Make it distinctive and go to your expertise. Lean deeply into that, but what are people looking for? What are the current pain points? What are the areas that intersect with that very specific area? Now, I do want to mention that you may be in an industry that isn't heavily populated in the podcast, especially on the streaming TV. Streaming TV is still becoming a thing. People are figuring out how to do it because, hey, you need lights, you need cameras, you need other things than just an audio microphone. So it does take a step off, but you don't have to break the bank to do it. But there are industries out there that don't have a heavy presence in this area. I just want to mention, if you're in these industries, you can create something that's unique and dynamic. So that's also part of what you need. One of the tips here is, are you in an industry that's kind of off the beaten path? It's not highly recognized. Maybe people in your industry just are not thinking about the audio video area. Had a conversation with someone earlier today talking about this very fact that, like the oil industry, has not necessarily been crazy about podcasting. They make tons of money in the oil industry, but leveraging media has not really been a thing because they get the oil, put it in drums, they ship it off, they make money. What is there to talk about? And there's actually a lot to talk about in the industry, and they're beginning to awaken and say, you know what? Maybe a podcast would do us good. Maybe a streaming TV show would do us good to have media export industry experts on a media driven show. So are you in mining and mining and construction are maybe not heavily talked about? Are you in commercial fishing? Commercial fishing, if you're in that, be a great specific podcast. How about metalworking? How about funeral services? They're one I've never heard anybody talk about on a podcast. Having a industry specific podcast on funeral services or a TV show. Think about your uniqueness of where you could go with this. Pest control. You know, pest controls are not highly sought for, Googled for on iTunes and things like that. Just not true. If you're in pest control area, you could leverage something like that. There's the commercial cleaning industry that does not have a heavy presence. I actually went out and looked for about 20 different industries that are not heavily represented in podcasting or TV content. There are many areas. If you're a roofer, if you're a home repair person, home repair is one. But again, let's take that as a great example. Home repair might be a great topic for a podcast streaming show. But specifically, how about the roofing industry? There's different parts of the country that need different type of roofing materials. They have to battle the elements. You can make a whole show around that. So get specific in your industry and think outside of the box. Now, one of the big tips about creating your industry podcast and TV show is, and you've got to believe you are an expert. Don't think, hey, everyone knows this stuff. Little old me doesn't have anything to say. You've been on the job. You've serviced people. You helped them. You've done a dynamic job with what you do. Now let's put it on tape or video. Part of doing this is creating a great run of show. Whether you're in the audio podcast industry or on the TV side, you need to create yourself a run of show. It's a standard operating procedure for creating a great dynamic show. I've got one for How to Rock the Stage. Tonight we have a great show coming up as well, but we have a run of show that I create. And I get that by getting some information from my guests on a pre-submission form that I've created. And then I also have the show flow that I know how it's going to go. For Rock the Stage, it's pretty simple because it is a talk show, investigative kind of discussion show. Have the opening. Now the opening is a countdown, the bumper. The opening is opening statements of welcome, hello, set a little vibe. Number 2 is going to be thank my sponsors for the show. So we're working with Adavita Studios. Adavita powers and supports Rock the Stage Media. So we thank them right up front with a verbal announcement that mentions them. After that, the next part of the run of the show is introduce who the guest is going to be. Give a brief little introduction of who they are and what they do. And it goes on and on and on until I get to the end of the show, thank them, get their social media, thank my sponsor again, because you always want to appreciate the sponsor. And then as I wind down, make sure you hit that closing bumper to wrap up the show. And there's an exit bumper just like you have on regular TV shows. That's, in a nutshell, the run of show. But for your show, you need to decide what you're going to do. Is there a weekly special segment that you're going to have someone beam in and do an added voice? Like the late night talk shows. Are you going to do a little humor segment and talk about funny license plates or whatever it is in the news? Design your show in a way and follow the format. Let me stress that. You want to follow the format of your template because people will get used to your personality. They'll get used to your style, especially in the beginning. Don't vary from that when you're launching your podcast or TV show. Build up familiarity. Build a trust factor into this that people go, hey, they're on. It's great. I can't wait to download it. I can't wait to watch it. They kind of know what to expect, but every show has its own feeling, its own vibe. And that's really important to do too. Now, of course, building these shows is very important. So how are you going to market and brand it? Come up with a marketing strategy before you launch your shows. Now, you may have heard this before, but this is something that we really go by here at Rock the Stage Media. Before you launch your podcast or your streaming TV show, you need to have 7 to 10 episodes in the can, completely done. Because, like you're on regular TV, those shows are pre-produced. And learn from Hollywood, pre-produced shows, they have a certain amount in the can. Usually it's 6 or 7. That allows you to get the show up and running while other shows are being edited and produced for final service and product and launch. So copy that. Always have many done while you're producing more so you never run out of content. Plus, if you take a holiday break, like we see many of the TV streaming shows do, You can always rerun, play back, get people caught up, and then launch your next wave of shows, 6 or 7 again, to keep it going. That's an important way to create the show, create consistency with your show, because that's what people are looking at. They don't want to tune in and have it be, no one's here, the show's not here, we were preempted. We've seen a lot of that, right? Shows get preempted, people get frustrated, you watch the ratings drop, and then they realize we've lost the traction of our people. Now, another big tip for doing your industry-based shows is make them as interactive as you can. For example, if you know you have a good topic coming up, put it in your emails, put it on your website, request questions from the guests, for the guest, from your viewers. What would you like to ask the best-selling author of whatever? Put that out there early. Use the interaction with the audience to build a relationship with the audience. People love hearing their name. Now, you may not want to give full names of many shows, which I really encourage. Thank you. Question from Susie coming in here today from Texas. That's all you need about Susie. You don't need to know her last name. You don't need to know anything else. Just Susie from Texas. What you're doing there, protecting the privacy of your listener, they're going to love you for that. You're going to get a great question that's going to be very interactive and at the heart of your topic, which you're going to want that as well. And you can keep the show moving. Now, if you're doing one of those industry-driven shows, you're going to want other people in your industry to ask questions of you. Again, let's say you're into coin collecting. You're going to do a coin collecting show. You're going to want to reach out to other coin collectors or merchants or vendors, people understand that type of a collection or hobby, and you're going to want them to ask questions. Maybe you have the average Joe out there that wants to know, I have a buffalo head here. Is that worth anything? Create your shows in a way that you always stimulate interest. One of the things we do here on 2 p.m. with the Trigger, you always see me pop up some sort of QR code, some sort of interactive piece, have people communicate with me and check back in. That's a big thing. That's one of the ways that we funnel people in so we can email them, we can talk to them one-on-one, and we break the glass from just being a show to having a real business conversation. That's what these business podcasts and TV shows are all hoping to do. They're all trying to leverage that show to elevate themselves. Now, one thing you also want to do is figure out how you are going to promote it. Social media is powerful, but I do not encourage you to just splash it everywhere. Drive people to your designated site where your show is primarily going to air. I drive my shows to 2 places. I drive them to Rock the Stage Media, the website. Our shows are on playback there. And then, of course, YouTube is another great area. And if you're just starting out on podcasting, did you know YouTube now allows you to turn your playlist into a video podcast? So you could put it out there that you have your video content. And this is for any video content. It can be your shorts. It can be your other materials. It can be your teaching, your coaching, whatever you have going on for your industry-specific stuff. Make a playlist of that. And then with one click of the button, it turns into a podcast. And that's an easy way to funnel people and promote it through the analytics that are already given to you through a free source called YouTube. It works really, really well. So think these things through. What's your format going to be? What's your run of show going to be? Who's your target market? What's the unique thing in your industry that you do? And do some research. If there's not a lot of people doing an industry-based podcast or TV show, you can jump on that and you can stand out from the crowd faster and quicker. We all know the first one that gets in usually has a better chance of survival. Take advantage of that. Do the research and figure out who else is in this space and how you can fill that space. If you want to know more about how you can build that brand and build things up the way we're describing here at Rock Stage Media, hit the QR code and let's have a conversation. We help you build your media empire. We help you launch streaming TV shows. That's right. We take you through from conception to launch. We will coach you, help you, equip you, design with you the show you want to have to help you shine brighter on camera and stage. It's all part of our brand promise, but we help you actually do it. If you're interested in learning that, hit the QR code and let's have a consultation one-on-one about how we can help you shine on camera, shine on stage, to elevate you in that brand authority. And that's going to do it for today. It's the Trigger, Rich Bontrager. We'll see you back here tomorrow for 2 p.m. with the Trigger.